Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world watching this, whenever in the world you're watching this. And another episode. I am just so blessed to do this. I can't even tell you, this is so exciting for me. My guest today is Ashley VIGO AGUIRRE, and the first person I've had like that has had time in the HR business, because I'm often, if you watch the show, I'm often saying, your HR is going to handle that, or what did your HR tell you about that, and have you consulted HR? So Ashley is going to help us answer some of those questions. Again, HR is here for you, and Ashley is, of course, in HR. She does a lot of organizational development, and she is an executive coach. We shared, I'm going to bring you on, Ashley, right now, but I want to tell one story about us together. We have been in our pajamas together.
I forgot about this.
Because I was helping out with we both went to the same coaching school, IPEC, and I was helping out, and we both coincidentally stayed in the same hotel, and there was the fire alarm went off at like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and everyone in the hotel had to go outside. And so I'm just kind of standing there thinking, thank God I wore pajamas today. Because sometimes I do not wear pajamas when I go to sleep. And I'm like sitting there and thinking, I don't smell any smoke. I don't see any, the fire engines all over the place, firefighters running all around. And I hear this voice go, hey, Joan. I'm like, oh my God, someone's going to see me? Actually, and I think Shauna, and
yeah,
kind of laughed about being like, wow, okay, guess we're going to be tired tomorrow in class. But anyway, I have a really wonderful feature over here that when someone comes on and says, and then I have this little button I can click, and they can come over and you can see us. You can see their comment. And if they want to, they can come on. So Bernard is like in the story that I told about the firefighters. And then, of course, it was nothing. It was like a few minutes later, we all just went back inside. And so then there was like hundreds of people trying to get onto the elevator, back to our rooms, grumpy, in our pajamas, So anyway, that's how we met in coaching school, that I was an assistant teacher at IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And yeah, and we just had a bond. We connected ever since. So now we're in mastermind. We meet every other Monday for a women's mastermind group, coaching. Everyone in the group is coaches. And so introduce yourself to us, Ashley. Say hello to everybody. And I see that we have Bernard here, and then someone named Tara said she is here. Oh, she's
Hi, Tara.
I may have misunderstood or misread something. I have an assumption it's virtual webinar of sorts. If so, how do I connect? I'll get back to her.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name's Ashley VIGO AGUIRRE. I moved in the middle of the pandemic. That's something cool about me, from Florida to California. And I've been working in the HR space for about 9 years. Started my career, and most of my career was at NASA at Kennedy Space Center. Coolest place to work. I love to tell people there's very few places in the world where you get to watch rockets from your backyard at work. And I got to do that very frequently. And so I got a really good foundation of HR and advising and coaching leaders there. And it's just been my passion ever since. I love to tell people, like, I'm an HR nerd. It's something that just is in me. Hey, Kelly. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Let me see. Kelly got on. Tara, I'm still working on Tara. Let's see what she says. But I'll tell you, when I first met you, you had a NASA shirt on, and I was like, wait, you work at NASA? You're my first NASA. Like, I was so impressed. I was so impressed. I didn't care what you did at NASA. I was so impressed because I had just moved to the Bay Area, and just driving past it, I'm like, wow, there's NASA. There's NASA. So tell us more. Tell us more about what it's like to look out your window and see rockets and to work with people that are putting people on the moon. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, just want to say a quick hello to Dr. Swick and Allison. Yeah, so I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. I first off, never thought I would ever work there. I happened to start as an intern, and like my university had put something up, and they said, you know, for business students, there's an internship. And so I joined, and I had no idea what to expect. But I got to meet a lot of great people there. You know, it really is. I also like pseudo learned a good amount of like very low key engineering. And if I didn't understand anything, I could ask him questions. But yeah, it was good to have like conversation with people, really dive deep and get to understand their work. And then next day, or, you know, a few months later, you see the rocket in the sky, and it's like, wow, like I helped, you know.
That's crazy.
So really mission-oriented organization. I mean, how could you not be? And yeah, I learned so much there and met so many great people.
Well, and you must have so many different personalities as an HR person and an OD person, because a lot of people must be, I'm thinking of like on the disc, they must be like a C or a D, and very focused, very logical. So you want to tell us?
The best compliment I got from an engineer was that I'm the HR person that thinks like an engineer. And I was like, I like you.
That should be your tagline.
Yeah. So I had a really, I was able to build good relationships with people, but honestly, yes, a lot of them are very detail oriented, very logical focused, but there's also so many people who are people oriented and or kind of big picture strategy. So you kind of do get a good mix. There's definitely a lot of detail oriented and logical people, but there's a good mix too. And then, you know, we got a lot of business folks, so that balances out too. But I feel like because of the culture, you kind of end up becoming a lot more logical and strategic, because that's kind of who we are. We're constantly thinking about the details of the rocket and making sure that it fits in with the big picture.
Nice, amazing. And of course, you're part of hiring people that do that stuff. So tell us about, well, this program is focused on first-time supervisors, leaders, managers. So kind of give us like a 101 HR, like that a first-time supervisor would need to know.
See, I love first-time supervisors because most of them are really excited. So the ones who, you know, get into the business of leading because they're interested in leading, it's always fun to kind of see their excitement. They're in this new role. They're a little bit nervous. And the first thing I like to say is like, relax, you'll figure it out. Things are going to pop up, and, you know, you have HR here to support you. You know, they love to ask me questions, and I love to tell people the number one answer you're going to get from HR is it depends. Because there's always so many factors, not the diapers. It depends on the situation. It depends on the factors. It depends on the employee. It depends on anything and everything that's happening in the situation. So we're going to chat a lot. So we can figure it out together. And then, you know,
I love that. We're going to figure it out together. And I have to tell you,
I'm all about creating partnerships with my customers. Like, this is a partnership.
Yeah, I'm here. Here's my phone number. I have to tell you, in my business, I worked for the government most of the time, and most of my government time, I worked in this thing called code enforcement. And it depends was the answer a lot. And I would get new employees, and especially if I inherited a police officer, like sometimes police officers, they retire or they get hurt or whatever, and they come over to code enforcement. And in police work, it's much more black and white. And in my world, it's like, well, it depends. And I said, and it depends, I'll tell you, it's the worst thing that you could say, and it's the best thing you could say. You know, I used to tell people, you're going to hate it and you're going to love it. And you can tell people out in the field, you can tell people, well, it depends. Give me some more information. I want to give a quick shout out to Trisha, who sells me my Oh my gosh. Grace and Heart Jewelry. And look, I have 3 pieces on. I got 2 rings
Aw.
and 3 rings. And so, hey, Trisha, because, you know, I was telling her that it's just me on the screen. Sometimes I sit really close and you only see my face. And so I decided to start trying to wear a ring. So shout out to Trisha.
That's a good idea. Very
shout
cute.
out to Trisha. Yeah. And yeah. There's Kenny. I don't know, Kenny. I'm going to have a private conversation with you because someone told me savor the flavor is not a nice thing. So I'm going to have a conversation with you separately. So there you go. Let's see. Oh, she's saying you got a thing for rings. I do. Okay, back to you. It's a partnership. Ashley, tell us more.
Yeah. The other piece that I love to talk about with supervisors is this technical HR piece. You'll figure it out. Like, again, it's a partnership, but don't let that be the primary focus of kind of what you're learning your first few months. Your first few months in the job is really get to know your people as employees. If you were their peer before, that doesn't mean you understand all of their goals and aspirations at work. So really get to know your employees. But also, when you have an HR question, you can pick up the phone and call HR. So what I really encourage my new supervisors to try and focus on is working on that leadership aspect, really fostering the relationships with their employee, understanding the culture of the organization, and figuring out the culture strategy on what you're going to do moving forward. Because, you know, the nitty gritty of performance plans and performance feedback and hiring someone, that's what HR is here to help you with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, I think that's just overall good advice for any new time people is get to know your people first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To not try to figure out everything,
Mm-hmm.
kind of get to know your people. And we always tell people, listen more than you speak. You have 1 mouth, 2 ears. So listen. I know you have written down some things that you want to tell us, and I wanted we can go there, or I can ask you a question that
you can start with the questions. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of my research shows, very minimal research shows, that it's difficult when you're a new supervisor and you inherit an underperformer, especially an underperformer that no one has ever done anything. Like the last performance evaluation they got was
5 out of 5.
Yeah, right. Or meets standards. Let's go safe and just says meet standards. And so everybody knows in the department, in the division, that this person doesn't meet standards, but everyone is just passing them along. And now you have them. Tell us what to do. I'm almost holding my breath because I've been there. I'm like,
it's hard. And especially if you inherit an organization and there's no documentation on what's going on with this employee. And so for me, what I try to focus on is encouraging the supervisor. Again, you just came on board, get to know all of your employees, including this employee who may or may not be a great performer. Started off with a clean slate. And when you go into that first meeting with everyone, I really like to have a short list of questions. Why do you enjoy working here? It's almost like an interview. Why do you enjoy working here? What don't you enjoy working about here? Where do you think you need more help? And how can we make this organization better? So those are a couple of areas that I'm like, okay, let's focus on these things and have that conversation with the employee who's not performing well and just see what they respond. Now, if they're completely apathetic and they don't want to be a part of this, then it's moving forward and observing, and then from there providing feedback. Hey, I noticed that you're not getting these things on time. I'm wondering what's going on. I want to make sure you succeed within this organization, and really coming from a place of empathy rather than pointing fingers and telling them like, yeah, you're the worst and I'm going to let you go as soon as I can.
And everybody knows it. You know it. I know it. Everyone here knows it. Yes.
But I've seen in organizations, sometimes it's just they're not a good fit for the role that they're in.
Exactly.
So if you have those conversations with the employee and you get like they're not inspired by the work, or it's just not really leveraging their strengths. I've seen people move from like within the same organization, don't just keep passing along a bad employee, but within the same organization, giving them different job duties. And then they flourish because now they're kind of living in their power. They're doing things that they're good at and they want to do. So that's why I like to start with the conversation and not come up with just full of assumptions of this employee's bad, even if you've worked with them. Like, you don't know how they got here. They started and they were good at one point. What led them to this point? So really getting curious and understanding what's going on for you and what can I do to help you moving forward?
I love how you said to say to them, I don't know, I hear some sort of noise. Is it coming from your place?
Oh, probably. Sorry, my landlord's doing construction. I forget to give that caveat all the time.
Oh, okay. Not a problem. That I want to make sure that you succeed. I think that's really nice for someone to hear who has been potentially overlooked. And then I don't know if this reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he says basically the things I got out of the book may be completely different than he actually put into the book, but this is what I got out of it. But get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and get the right people in the right seats. So back to what you said about what don't you enjoy doing? A lot of employees don't feel they have the permission to be honest, to say, actually, I've been doing this job for 20 years and I hate it. I'd rather stick a fork in my eye than to do this. But what am I going to do now? I've been doing this for so long. So what are your comments on that? And I see a couple other people have put other comments in. If you answer the question, then I'll put the comments. And just FYI to anyone who's listening, on whatever medium, I am on, right at this moment, I'm on live on Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. So on any of those platforms, you can put a comment. I'm going to see it. For example, we had a comment from Allison Gibbs. She is or was watching from YouTube. So you can see she's from YouTube because it has the little YouTube signal. And Marina, you can see she's coming in from LinkedIn because it has a LinkedIn symbol. Okay, so we have some other comments waiting, but do you even remember what I was talking about? Oh yeah. Do I have, like most employees are too scared to say what they really think.
Quick hello to Tara. I saw that she came on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to over time building trust with employees. I mean, especially if you don't know these people, you're new to the organization, or you moved from a different office to this office and now you're the supervisor. Those people may not trust you at all. And so no, they might not be honest with you. But at that point, it becomes the job of the leader to continue to work with the employees and build trust with them by, really listening to them in meetings, accepting their feedback when they're saying like, this probably isn't a good idea. Maybe not doing exactly what they're saying, but really listening and validating what they're saying and be like, I hear where you're coming from. So continuing to build trust with your employees is really crucial for you to continue to get these answers. And back to like the bad employee may not want to tell you anything because they haven't had good trust with their former supervisors. Maybe that's why they felt deflated. I've never been a bad employee, but I've definitely gone from like being the best employee I can be to being okay. And it was really because I didn't trust the organization around me at that point in my career. I didn't feel like people cared about me. So, I've definitely never been the person you can fire. I'm going to do my job as best as I can, but I didn't have the energy to give it my all in that moment. So having trust there was important for me. And when the next leader came in, I felt way more energized and I was really excited to do my job and I killed it. So yeah, if employees don't feel excited or open to share with you, at that point, it just takes time, like building any relationship. Like, no, this is not a romantic relationship, but just like a romantic relationship, you have to build knowledge and trust with each of these employees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That brings me to one of the points I wanted to bring up today.
Go ahead. I'm already writing some tips down to.
So most people in the world have heard of the golden rule: treat others how you like to be treated. And then I've also heard over the years it's evolved to the platinum rule: treat others how they want to be treated. Mm-hmm, and so 100%. We are all different and motivated by different things. Every employee is different. You can't just do one solution and think that it's going to work for every employee. So going from, what would I want to do in this situation to what motivates my employees, which is why I like to have those one-on-ones in the beginning to say, hey, what's going on for you? How do you like to be congratulated? Like I'm a ham, but I hate being congratulated publicly. Like, I just want a quick one-on-one conversation, and I want to know why. Why did you think I did a good job? And that for me is like $1 million. Like, really makes me feel amazing. But some people like different things. Some people don't like to be acknowledged at all, which, I mean, you still can acknowledge them just privately. And some people really enjoy hearing their name in a staff meeting saying, oh my gosh, Joan did a great job. I'm so excited to have you on the team. So little things like that in terms of, how people like to be communicated to, what types of structure they like to get with their assignments, how they like to receive information. All of these things are different. So the more you can get to know your employees, the better it will be.
Yeah, and it's just a simple question, right? Like, nobody has ever asked me, how do you like to be rewarded? This is what I used to tell my employees. If you really want to butter me up and get on my good side, Munchos, it's a type of potato chip that is kind of hard to find. So I said, just bring me a bag of Munchos or cut up fruit. I love fruit, but I hate to cut it up. And I hate to so simple as that. And so then I asked them, if I were to reward you with something, what would you like? Well, if you have a coffee drinker, they might like Starbucks. I'm a tea drinker. So yeah, I could probably find something at Starbucks, but I would prefer, a movie ticket. So just asking people, right? I'm getting some great tips. How do you want to be congratulated? I think that's fantastic. Now let me make sure we get all the people that have taken the time to write a comment. I love it. Tap into intrinsic motivation. And when that doesn't work, still hold space for empathy, while also keeping them accountable. Do you want to make a comment on what Tara said?
Yeah, I think that was going back to acknowledging employees who maybe aren't great performers. And so, yeah, getting to know them empathetically is important, but that also doesn't mean that you just let them skate on by. It's starting the process to understand them and help them or let them know that you want them to do well. And then from there, it's also their responsibility to take the bait and, either share what's bothering them, share what motivates them, or start performing. So it's a slow process, I think. And I prefer to come to the place of, I come from like no information and I just want to help you.
Yeah, and when I talked with first-time leaders and in this show and all the coaching clients that I have, at some point, you might have to step up. At some point, you need to make this very clear. You need to say these words to the employee. You have to say, this is very serious. What I need you to hear right now is this is very serious. Something like that the employee is not thinking, here's another person chatting with me. Okay, now let's see what Kelly says. Yes, sometimes parting ways is a both thing for both parties. There is a win-win to be found in all situations. And I do feel by the time that an employee, most of the time, now my heart is out to people that lost their jobs during the pandemic, during downsizing, during this, during that, forever. Like, I have a client who was CEO one day, CFO the next day with no notice. So, but most of the time when you have an employee like this and you counsel them and the decision is for them to leave, it actually can be a relief to them also. But it's difficult firing people. I've done it. It's very difficult. So
it's challenging to have those conversations. I mean, but going back to that Jim Collins quote, I mean, getting people on the bus, off the bus, and putting them in the right seat. If they don't want to be there, I mean, it's everyone's choice to come into work. Most states are an at-will state. You are choosing to be here. And even when I, have worked in jobs and they weren't my favorite, that's what I had to keep telling myself. Like, I'm choosing to still be here. So I need to do my job as well as I can. And so that's true for anyone. And as a supervisor, you can help your employees. Like, if they're like, I'm not happy here. Okay. How can we help you find the right role for you? And really fostering that relationship with them. You don't know when, you may need them in the future, whether it's within the organization or outside the organization. I mean, people are people. So if you're able to still come from a place of empathy, even if they don't want to be there, and help them find what works, what the best fit is for them. I mean, that's a win-win all around. You get an employee who's not satisfied in your organization, and that type of energy can totally spread. And you're also helping them be happier in a different role, whether it's within, your company or outside. So, again, I think it always comes back down to knowing your employees and just figuring out how you can help them.
And I want to add, knowing yourself. And this is when you can reach out to your HR people. Okay,
Absolutely.
Here, Kelly has something else. Employees afraid of being truthful is a reflection of the culture of the organization. What ways do you recommend? Oh, here's a question. Are you ready for a question, Ashley?
Yeah.
What ways do you recommend addressing culture at all levels in an organization?
So I always tackle culture from a lens of leadership development. I think it comes from the top. One of the best quotes that I heard, and it was in a training class, was, if you're not intentionally developing the culture within your organization, a culture will still arise. And it may not be the culture that you want.
Wow.
So it comes from the leaders being intentional on what type of organization do you want to have. And, people sometimes feel like mission, vision, and values are, just very vague. And,
it's on the wall. Actually, it's on the wall.
But there's a way to be intentional about it.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah. If all you're doing is putting it together or smacking it on a wall, it's not going to be helpful. But if you're, as a leader, living these values, what I love to see is when they apologize because they accidentally don't live the values in a moment. Holding yourself accountable will show your organization that they can also be accountable, self-accountable. Don't let someone else call you out. Be the person who's going to call yourself out and say, like, hey, I didn't do my best in this meeting. So I'm sorry for that, and let's go on moving forward. So yeah, for me, leadership comes from the top, and in every hire that you make needs to be intentional in alignment with those values. Dr. Swick is talking about language of appreciation. I love knowing that for other people. It's so important for me to be able to understand, like, what is it that makes you tick? What are you going to appreciate?
Is that an actual term? I mean,
it's a spin-off of 5 love languages.
Oh, is it? Okay. I love the 5 love languages. Okay.
Yeah, they switched it for like corporate, basically. So you can apply it at work settings as well.
Which is so important, which goes back to what you said before, the platinum rule.
Treat others how they want to be treated. Absolutely.
Treat me how I want to be treated. I'm treating you how I want to be treated, which is completely different. Okay, I want to make sure we're already a half hour in. We still have about a half hour left. You had some other things some other wisdom, so to speak, you wanted to impart on us.
Let me see. I think I've covered most of it.
And I'll tell you some of the things I wrote down that we can ping and go off of.
Yeah. So, again, as a leader, I always encourage leaders to come from a place of wanting to be helpful, wanting to help your employees. So one of the big things, always get to know your employees as an individual, figure out how you want the culture of your organization to be. But another piece is being honest. So there will be, and this is especially important during performance time, but you shouldn't only be having performance conversations during performance time. And so if you're doing a succession plan and this is very technical, but if you're using like a 9-box model for succession plan to figure out where your employees are and whether or not they're ready to be promoted or, still need to do some work, it's scary to give people that feedback sometimes because you're like, I don't want to give them bad news. I don't want to let them know like I'm not ready to promote them yet. But if you come into that situation from a place of helpfulness, like, hey, this is where I'm assessing you at because of X, Y, and Z. And I want you to get to this place. So this is what we need to do to get there. Or even better, coaching them and say, how do you think we should get there? So in terms of performance, succession management, when they do a great job, when they aren't doing a great job, being able to provide them feedback in a way that is empathetic is helpful, because the worst thing you can do is have an employee be blindsided by the fact that they don't know that they're not doing well. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you're not getting a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5 this year. Like you're a 2 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5. And then they're like, why didn't anyone tell me I wasn't performing? What got me here? Because as far as I know, I was doing great all year. So finding ways to continue to come from a place of helpfulness and be honest with those employees and wanting to help them. Like, I'm sure you want to help them. You don't just want to like kick them to the curb, especially if they've been a great performer for so long and now all of a sudden they're kind of off. And also it could just be they have something going on. This year's a great example. It's COVID. Everyone's got something going on. But during a regular year, I've had family tragedies, and some of them I shared with my supervisor because I had to leave on a dime, but others, no one knew anything was going on. I was coming in and out and like it was hard for me to handle it. So you never know what your employees are dealing with. So being able to have that conversation, you'll get to understand if there's a root cause behind it, and see if you can help there as well. So it's always good to find ways to be honest with your employees. And for me, that looks like coming from a place of empathy and helpfulness.
And that reminds me also that sometimes first-time leaders are not aware of EAP or Employees Assistance Program, and that's usually
absolutely
in government anyway. It's out of the HR office. I don't know if that's how it is in private, but that I think I have suggested EAP to almost every one of my employees. I just remind them once in a while, hey, it's available. Not only underperformers, just everyone. Just hey,
everyone, yeah.
Just
life happens.
They're there for you. Financial, you're going through a divorce, you're adopting a child. I mean, EAP, which some people don't know, means Employees Assistance and Employees Assistance Program. And usually companies have some type of thing like that you can go to.
Yes, they're large enough. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's confidential. The number's usually posted in the lunchroom kind of thing. Yeah. Of course, again, I've worked for government, which is, we are held to higher standards.
Absolutely.
But, I wrote down, before we started before we came on, when we were in the green room, so to speak, you said something about you concentrate on leading and HR will help you with the process.
Yeah. So, again, a first-time supervisor are always talking about, how do I help my employees develop? What resources are here available for them? What do I need to do to guide them to get better? How do I put their performance plan in the performance system? How do I create a job announcement? The list is on and on, because HR helps you with anything that's employee-focused. And so don't go into trying to learn HR like an expert. HR is here to be an expert in HR. Mm-hmm. And you have the opportunity to learn, absolutely. But rather than spending all of your time focusing on that, focus your time on leading, getting to know your employees, having those one-on-ones with them when you first come on board, establishing the culture, anything regarding leadership. Read some leadership books. There's plenty of them out there, because that's what's going to serve you in the future. If you can't figure out how to write a performance plan, HR probably has a template or examples that they can give you. If you don't know how to do a job announcement, they can ask you questions to help you do it correctly. They are here to support you to make sure that those technical aspects get done well, but the leadership aspects are really what I can't lead for you. I'm just here to have a conversation with you and help you be the best leader you can be. But I can't do these one-on-ones with meetings because I'm not your employee's leader. They don't care what I want. They're like, oh, cool, that's HR. Or, ooh, that's HR. It depends on what the employee feels. you are responsible for leading your employees. And, you know, I don't remember what the exact percentage is, but a high percentage of employee satisfaction, I think it's above 50%, is dependent on the relationship with the employee and the leader. Leaders have so much to do with the satisfaction of their employees that is where your time is best spent, figuring out how to be the best leader you can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They say that, I don't know what the statistic is, but people don't leave the job, they leave the boss.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And Bernard is agreeing with that. You had mentioned so many things. If you don't have anything, I wrote down a bunch of things to get back to.
I don't think I have anything else. I think I covered all of my own pieces.
Okay, so can you tell us some of the leadership books you recommend? Just personally, as a coach and as an OR person and as an HR, with all your different hats on.
Yeah. So one of, if a leader's only going to read one book, my favorite book is Leadership and Self-Deception. It's by the AGUIRRE Institute. The title is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And I think it's a really great book overall. I think, and it helps not just with leadership, it helps in life. Like, and it's written as a fable, so it's very easy to kind of go through it. I listened to the audiobook and I read it. So it's because it's written as a fiction novel, but it's, you know, kind of based on true facts and a framework of ways to help you be a good leader. It's much more interesting than reading like a plain nonfiction book, which I truly appreciate.
What's the author again? I'm going to put it in the chat.
The AGUIRRE Institute. So it's not a person, it's the organization.
ARBING.
Yes. I actually have one of their other books that I'm starting to read. I feel like it's part 2 and it's called Outward Mindset. So I can show you this one.
Okay, awesome. Did I spell it correctly in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then before we go on, I want to acknowledge Emma, who is coming into us from the most, or did you even have any cases of COVID, New Zealand?
Oh my goodness. Hello, Emma from New Zealand. Lucky you guys.
Uh-huh. Love the
I've always wanted to go there.
Right?
I don't know if they'll let me in anytime soon.
You have a friend. Now you have a new friend. And Emma and I met at a leadership conference at Stanford.
Oh, fantastic.
We kept in touch. Yeah. Okay. So Emma says, love the focus you are placing on leadership aspects over the HR process. Yes. So often we see people use HR process as a proxy for a conversation and seeking to understand. Yes.
Yeah. And that goes back to us talking about, you know, don't let the performance conversation be the only conversation you have with your employees about performance.
Exactly.
Meet with your employees regularly and inform them about what's going on regularly. You can have conversations not just about their work, but about the organization, how things are going, the mission, because that's going to get them more engaged and you don't want to blindside them. Mm-hmm. The performance conversation is a proxy, and I'm sure it was developed because people weren't having conversations with their employees. So lots of organizations are like, okay, we're going to do this once a year, twice a year, quarterly to try and force that function. But it's better if you don't just wait for that and continue to have conversations with your employees throughout the year, throughout the month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when we say proxy, I guess I want to use a improv term, yes and, because when I have been in that situation and I've contacted HR, they say, hey, we have a video you can watch. We have some templates you can use. Like they told me exactly what to say and what to do, you know, so I didn't feel so alone and by myself. Here's Emma with some more. Our HR managers are usually out of touch with the leadership style at play. How can we get these folks better equipped to advise us? So Emma, you jumped on late, so I just want to say that Ashley is HR. So let's see what she has to say about that.
Well, we already talked about this, Joan, but my favorite answer is it depends. And yeah, so I feel like the world of HR has evolved within the past decade, maybe longer, 10, 20 years, from, you know, the early 1920s style industrial style HR management, chain of command, and moving more into that strategy and strategic lens. I can't speak for all of HR. For me, being able to balance the technical pieces of HR with my own personal leadership style is important for me. And in the organizations that I've worked in, they've done a good balance to try and integrate those two things together. But I have, of course, worked with HR people who are focused on the rules and this is all that matters and only focused on their specialty area and harder to see some of the bigger picture. And at that point, it becomes the responsibility of their leader or their organization to kind of bring them in to the bigger picture, provide them with training to help them see that. And that becomes a conversation between them and their supervisor. But it also depends on the culture of the organization. There are organizations who are perfectly fine with a compliance-focused 1, 2, 3 HR organization, but a lot of organizations now are understanding and seeing the value around having a strategic HR partner who can help them with things like leadership and culture and employee experience. Because ultimately, even if you're just focused on numbers, the employees are the ones who are providing you with those metrics and numbers. They're the ones making you the sales. They're the ones who are generating dollars. They're the ones who are building a product on time and of quality. So it is so important to continue to foster their satisfaction within the organization, so that way they can do good things for you so you can meet the metrics. I heard an anecdote a few days ago in an article. I don't know if it was an article or a personal story. It was a personal story. And they said, their CEO is only focused on the metrics and they do not care about the people aspect of anything. And that's fine. But if you don't foster those people relationships and provide satisfaction for your employees, those numbers probably aren't going to go up if they're not satisfied. So that's why, again, it is a great question to have, very valid. We want to make sure that we're moving past just these metrics and numbers and compliance and moving towards, strategy, people strategy.
And then from my experience, you want to know what HR, if you have HR support. Like, I don't want to spend all this time documenting it, and I've been here. And then I take it up, and they say, oh, we're not doing anything. Or they put it aside, they say, I'll get back to you, and they never do. So it kind of comes back to, it's reminding me, both Emma and Ashley, of the culture. It's all about the culture. If the culture of HR is supportive or not. And so then it comes down to, maybe you're the one who needs to get off the bus. Maybe I'm the one. Maybe I'm the one. It's me. I just don't fit here. I wish you all well, and I've looked at all the depends, and all signs point to it's me. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had to make that decision for myself. I had to turn down a really good job because I was like, you know what, this isn't going to work for me. I'm not a good fit here. And it was happy and sad. I was glad to
get the offer.
To make that decision for myself. And it's nice for someone to want you. But, I had to step away from a pretty significant increase because I was like, no, this at this stage in my life, this doesn't work for me. And it's okay to make that. We're not all going to fit in every place. It's good to find your people. What also came up for me in that regard too, a little bit separate is, you don't want to do all of this work and then HR say they're not going to support you. Just like you don't want to blindside your employee, you don't want to blindside HR. Because I've had the case where supervisors think that they're documenting the right thing, but they're not. So it's not that I can't support you. I can't support you yet because the documentation you have is not great yet. So let's work together to get the right documentation coming in. So even if you get wind of I'm not sure if this employee is working out, have a conversation with your HR person. You're not making a decision. You're not firing anyone right now. You're not doing anything. It's a conversation, and see what they say. Hopefully they're here to support you and lend a helping hand. So ask them what do I need to do from here? How do you advise I improve this situation with the employee? Or what types of documentation do I need to get together? So the last thing you want to do is, again, do all of that work and then HR be like, no thanks. And sometimes it is solely because there was just no communication on the upfront.
And then Or you're just going to need to start all over again?
Yeah, which is so annoying.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I tried so hard. I've been doing this for months. What do you mean I have to start all over? Here, look at all of these papers. I'm sorry, that's not what we needed. And you wouldn't know that because you're not HR. So always being able to remember to leverage your HR people.
You mentioned books. Are there any podcasts you like, or YouTube, TED Talk, people that you follow that you think would be really great for first-time supervisors, leaders, and managers?
So books, love anything by Brene Brown. She is the queen. She is my queen. And then also Patrick Lencioni has great frameworks for things like
about him.
Yeah, he also writes in the form of fables, so it's very easy to read and listen to as well. 5 Dysfunctions of the Team was the first book that I read at. If you're a high-level manager, a senior manager within an organization, The Advantage is a great book and framework to understand implementing things within your organization at that high level, the mission and vision, and how to live that throughout your organization.
Is that still Patrick?
That is still Patrick Lencioni.
The Advantage, okay.
It's kind of a summary of pretty much all of his books, but he puts it together in a framework in which you can implement it. It's great for HR people, also great for senior managers to read and understand.
Nice.
And then podcasts, Brene Brown, her Daring Leadership podcast is out. And I've been listening to it since it came out, and it is fantastic. I think there's a few more that I listen to, so if I could just take a moment.
If you want to, or we have a question from Edgar.
Oh, I would love the question.
What are some strategies that leaders in HR can use to ensure effective training and development?
Yeah, I feel like in the past 10 years.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends. We're back at it. I feel like in the past 10 years, training's gone from live to virtual. And that's been an adjustment for organizations. Are people actually paying attention when you send them to virtual training? Are they actually absorbing the information because it's not as interactive? So I think this is where the leader developing some coaching skills is really, really good. You don't have to be a certified coach to coach people. And you can learn some of these coaching skills to understand and really dive deep on the areas in which your employees need to and or want to develop. And then from there, partnering with HR to say like, hey, you know, this employee in the future wants to be a project manager. What can we do to assist them getting there? You know, it all depends on budget, but there's lots of free resources now too. You know, I've taken some time. Google just came out with, I think it's called Google Grow. They've got project management classes, some tech classes. They have a D&I class. I recently posted, it's free. I recently posted, it's closed now, but the University of South Florida is doing like a diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate. I signed up for that. LinkedIn Learning, if you have a library, most times you can get access to LinkedIn Learning for free because the library provides you with access to LinkedIn Learning, which is an amazing resource. And I've been doing training within HR on there just to kind of keep my skills up to date and or learn new skills. So there's lots of resources. If there is no budget out there, you just kind of have to look for it. But yeah, it starts again with that conversation with the employee, understanding what they need and or want, and then figuring out from there either strategies between you and the employee or strategies between you and HR. Because maybe if there's not a big budget, maybe they have sometimes we have a secret pile of money that we can share with you if it's really crucial and critical. Don't tell your HR office that I told you that they have secret stash, because they might not. But sometimes there is a reserve for critical development.
I love that. Edgar, did that help you? Let us know. Let's see. I have what I wrote down that I thought was like such great little tips and tidbits. First thing I wrote down was be curious. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just to approach everything from a point of curiosity. Like, tell me more about that. Like, no, not you tell me more about that, but people, people in general. Like, when I'm thinking, what the heck were you thinking? Since I can't say that, and I would probably say something, my Philly, what I call my native language. being growing up in Philadelphia would probably come out. It would be much worse. But so since I can't say that, I would say something like, help me understand that. Tell me more about that. So
why is that coming up for you?
Why is that important to you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're coaching. We're kind of laughing at each other because they're kind of coaching questions. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so I love that you said, you know, just be curious, come from a place of curiosity. Did you want to say anything else about that before we close? I have several other things written down.
No, if you have other things, we can touch on some other stuff.
The next thing, like bullet point, I really got out of it was build trust.
Mm-hmm.
Build trust. The next thing, I love that you mentioned the platinum rule. How do you want to be congratulated? And I am so happy that, in fact, we should put that in the chat. Thank you, Marina. Let me get back to the chat. Let me find. Sometimes I forget I have several monitors hooked up, and so I'm on my laptop trying to move the mouse, and it's not going. Okay, levels of appreciation. No, language. Oh, see, I didn't know about that. This is a game changer for me. I'm probably going to have all my clients do this with their language of appreciation. Yeah, let me see if I can find a link for that on the internet. But I know at one point I put together a questionnaire that I gave when I was very new as a supervisor. I put a questionnaire together about how do you want to be rewarded. And then I have a questionnaire I give to my clients sometimes too, like just with a bunch of questions for the leader to know who they are. Like as simple as, are you a morning person or an afternoon person?
Mm.
And I am not, let me see if I can copy this. Save as, print, cast, send to Joan. No. Could you put that in the regular chat, Ashley?
Oh, that's what this button is for. Yep, I absolutely can.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, I can't.
No, you can't? You can't actually chat. Okay, there's something I knew, something new I just learned. Okay, let me find it. I am not a morning person, and when I worked at one place, my staff came in very, very early. And so when I came in at like 8:30-ish, they were eager. You know, they had their coffee. Their coffee had taken, you know, and now they want, oh, Joan's here. And I was like, okay, I need to put my purse down and I need to have a cup of tea in my hand. Until you see I have a cup of tea in my hand, it's not going to work well for you. So help me help you, kind of thing. Is there anything you want to say about just other little tips on getting to know little simple things and how important it is?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just, I love that first time meet and greet with your new employees, even if you've known them for 20 years, to just really dive deep on what interests them, what their goals are, and how you can help them. And I like to ask, what do you think is going wrong here, or what areas of improvement do we have, or what suggestions do you have? Because you get a different lens from people who are actually working on the ground. Like, they're doing the work, and sometimes leaders make decisions that aren't effective for the organization. Exactly. So being able to get input from them, that doesn't mean you implement everything they suggest, but it's good data to have to make decisions on in the future.
And then at some point you said intention, but what I wrote down was be intentional and intentionality. And I think that's so important for the relationship, for the relationship to, you know, just, sorry, that was my phone.
That's okay.
For the relationship to work, I want to be intentional, which, you know what, reminds me of a, okay, wait, here's Kelly Project. No, I saw project and I said the Kelly Project. The potential project, 65 employees would forgo a raise to see their leader fired. Wow. Wow.
Makes sense.
Like, that's a showstopper for me because it is so true. It is so
she just put another one up.
Let's see.
70% of leaders think that they engage and motivate employees. 82% of employees disagree. Yeah, I've seen this in real time. Managers be like, I don't understand. I did everything that they asked. And because we would do employee surveys and then figure out actions after that. And sometimes employees are just asking basic things like, we need this to be fixed. But that fixing of that item isn't necessarily going to assist with their satisfaction. It's just something that they have seen and wanted to gripe about, and it's a tangible example that they could provide. Quick little anecdote. We had one organization within one of my jobs that was not doing very well in terms of motivation, employee motivation and satisfaction. And they put in a new leader and things kind of turned around. And what we like to say was that she would manage by walking around. She had on her calendar twice a week. Her employees were within two very far separate buildings. They were miles apart. She would go have it on her calendar once a week. One day I'm going to go visit this area. One day I'm going to go visit this area. One day I'm going to go visit this area. And, you know, this is an executive who's got lots of meetings, gets lots of questions, dealing with high visibility items, who for at least 3 hours a week would walk around and say, hey, Ashley, how's it going? How's your mom doing? Or, you know, hey, Joan, I remember your dog was having trouble. Is your dog feeling better? How was your vacation? And really, this is why I think that leadership is so important, really wanting to build relationships with them as people, not as employees. And this is the highest executive within the organization, sitting there and making intentional conversation with each of their employees. And over time, their satisfaction results skyrocketed. They still had some challenges, because if you've been in a low statistical satisfaction area for a while, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. But just by her being very intentional with her actions, they were able to make such a big difference within the organization. The culture was able to improve, you know, exponentially. So that's why it's so important to get to know your employees. It's not just kind of buzzwords that we like to say within HR, within the leadership development space. It truly matters.
That is a management by walking around is a really old thing from I think it's either from the 1 Minute Manager or Who Moved My Cheese, but very old. And then I was kind of thinking about something similar. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I just lost all the chats. I don't know what I did. All the chats are gone.
Well, Emma said impressive statistic, and Kenneth said, of course, absolutely, I concur with you on this one. So thanks, Kenneth.
Let me just do this. Yeah, so I don't know, but we're pretty close to the end. When Edgar asked that question about how could we improve the thing, it was either Edgar or Emma, about the relationship, in my head, I thought, now, why is it that we only see HR when we go to HR? Why can't we see, so this manager, this leader, could be exec, is walking around, right? And then I know it's not like, oh, she's on the floor. Everybody puts, we used to have signals. We used to put like a flag up and stuff like that if someone was on the floor. And now it's just like, they're here. It's not a problem. It doesn't mean that because the leader is here, there is a problem.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, I worked in organizations where HR was expected to have a presence within the organization. So I was expected to get to know employees. I was expected to get to know the managers and the leadership team. So that also comes down to culture within your organization. But as an HR person, it's good to kind of go and get to know those employees as people. You don't have to be best friends with people, but just kind of getting to know them just as much as a leader would, because these leaders are coming to you with feedback about these employees and you're expected to help them.
I know you have to get, is it?
Yeah, I love this question.
Back to work. I know you have to get back, but do you still have a few more minutes?
Yeah, I think I can probably do 2 or 3 more minutes.
Okay.
I do love this question. It is more challenging now that we're in a virtual environment to do management by walking around. But for me, it's easy to do, checking in periodically. If you use an instant messaging system like Slack or Microsoft Teams, you can kind of just check in with employees and say like, hey, how's it going? What did you do this past weekend? Like I shared with my supervisor, I am getting my shot tomorrow and I'm super excited and I'm super nervous. And so it's, I know. So it's just keeping up with them in a general way. Being able to ask them like, hey, what are your goals this year? When COVID opens up, what would you like to do first? Probing them with questions just to kind of get them chatting. And of course, you can always do phone or video, like, hey, can we check in really quick, 15 minutes? And don't ask about work. Just don't. If you can meet with all of your employees one-on-one for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and just chat with them, that feels really good. So some employees are more shy than others, so you might have to share more than they share. But, being able to provide them with the opportunity by asking them and inquiring with them about their lives. And, especially during this virtual environment, like, how's it going is a really good question. And then asking them, like, for real, how's it going? Because most people just say, yeah, everything's good, I'm fine. But, I've been holed up I've moved 5 times this year, so in 5 different houses. But I've been holed up almost 24/7 for months. And I've had days where it's hard. Jonah and I have talked about it. I've had days where it's really hard. And so if I was working at those times, it would have been really helpful if the manager just really inquired and asked how I was doing. And of course, if you have EAP, offering EAP services if they need it. But you're not going in with that intention. It's really just trying to get to know your employees in those moments. And then, of course, you can always ask them about their goals, how they think the virtual environment's going, any suggestions that they have, ideas of how to get the team together, team building suggestions. Should we have a game night? I know people will have had happy hour. I have a friend who did a magic show. So there's additional ways to kind of build camaraderie, a virtual magic show. There's plenty of ways to build virtual camaraderie with your team. So it's just, but in terms of management by walking around, just checking in the ways that you can, which is virtually. And for me, I prefer something more real time. So video chat, phone chat, or text message or instant messaging.
And is it okay if I just add one thing?
Yeah, of course. This is your show. Do it, Joan.
Just pick up the phone and call somebody.
Absolutely.
And then I had a client who worked for this incredible company that they would send them like a picnic basket or like popcorn and candy bars for them to watch a movie at home. It was just like a nice card, a handwritten card. Oh my God, isn't it amazing to go to the mail? I don't know how it is in other countries, Emma, but we get just tons of junk mail and advertisements. That's all we get. And when you actually see something with someone's handwriting, you're like, oh my God, I got a card.
Oh, I love handwritten cards.
Right.
I know a leader who here locally for the holidays got little gift baskets from Costco. They were like $10 each and hand delivered them to all of her employees for the holidays. So like, here you go. Happy holidays. I hope you have a good one. Enjoy this popcorn, have a movie night.
Even just standing on the sidewalk and going, look,
hello. Yeah.
Hello.
I mean, if my hair's not done that day, I might be a little annoyed if my boss knocked on my door. But I do think that it's a nice gesture to, put yourself out there and build your relationship with your employee.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we better wrap it up. Is there any closing statement? And also, I'd like you to tell us, anybody who wants to follow up with you with more questions, to hire you as a consultant or as an executive coach, how do we find you?
Yeah. So, my email address is ashley@vigoconsultinggroup.com. If that's a lot, I am here on LinkedIn as Ashley Vigo Aguirre, and I'm on Instagram as Overcome Perfect because I like to focus on.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I like to focus on overcoming perfectionism in your life in order to feel more free, move from being stuck to feeling really empowered in your life and moving forward. But yeah, feel free to reach out with me to me with any additional questions. If you're interested in coaching, I do offer free 45-minute coaching sessions. So reach out to me and I'd be happy to do a free consultation with you.
And Emma, while you're here, I know it's early. Every time I talk to Emma, I feel like I'm time traveling. Because it's tomorrow there. It's tomorrow in New Zealand, but a few hours earlier. And so Emma, we're here every Tuesday. We talk about leadership, and 10:30 Pacific time. And then on Sunday, I have a show called Stories of Serendipity and Synchronicity. Okay, so did I, Ashley at VIGO Consult, VIGO Consulting.com.
VIGO Consulting Group.
Okay, and then of course LinkedIn. And when I hit that message, I got my captions went away again, which is something we don't need to share with the whole group. But any other questions, comments? Because we're going to be closing up the show. And Edgar again is saying thank you for all your information. Emma is saying great chat. Hey Edgar, here every Tuesday to talk about leadership. If you want to come on, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. And
thanks to everyone for your engagement and your presence. And thank you so much, Joan, for the invite. I'm so excited that we got to do this. This was so much fun.
Amazing. Okay. Talk to you later, everyone. See you next time. Be kind, live intentional, be curious, use the platinum rule.